This is Shireesha from Master of Business Administration, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So, in the previous session, we discussed about what is ISO cost, ISO con, and we also discussed about least cost combination of inputs. So, all these are talking about factor inputs to the production function with two variable inputs. So, with the same two variable inputs, we also have another production function which is given by Cobb Douglas. So, here we are going to discuss about Cobb Douglas production function and law of returns, where we say it as with large scale if it is in long run how the production goes on, and what are the internal and external economies of scale if the production or if the firm wants to enjoy the advantage of increasing the productivity. So we are all going to discuss about Cobb Douglas production function, law of returns, internal and external economies of scale in this session. So now coming to the first one, that is Cobb Douglas production function. So, what is the history of Cobb Douglas production function? So, during 1990 to 1947, Charles Cobb and Paul Douglas formulated and tested the Cobb Douglas production function through various statistical evidences. So, this function is used with two variable inputs. So, this functional form of production function is widely accepted for the to find the relationship between input and outputs. So, let's discuss this Cobb Douglas production function now. So, here there is a mathematical formula which is given by Cobb Douglas, where y is equal to c into L to the power a into k to the power b. So this is the production function which is given by Cobb Douglas. So let's understand what is this now. So y is the total output. What is the total output with the input of labor and capital? So here what this Cobb Douglas production function says, that is, what are the elasticities of both the input factors. So here they have concentrated on the what is the total elasticity of labor and capital also. So here what is the elasticity? Elasticity means the rate of response from one input factor to the other input factor. Okay. So here L is labor, A is the output elasticity of labor, and K is the output, K is the capital, B is the output elasticity of capital. For example, we can say like labor, when we consider 25% of labor, what is the rate of change in capital we need to check. That we can take it as A is 25%, then B will become, this is A, and our B will become A minus 1 minus 100 minus 25, that is 75%. So this is the elasticity which we are finding out for both the input factors. So this is A and B. Okay. So now what is this C? So coming to C, this is the total factor productivity. This is the total factor productivity. We take it as a constant value. So this is what is explained here. So we can also write the production function like this. P of, because we are taking two input factors, so our production function becomes P of L into K, that is labor and capital, is equal to B constant value and L labor into alpha, that is the elasticity, and capital into beta, that is beta is the elasticity. Okay. So this is all given here. The P is the total production. So the monetary value of all the goods produced in a year. So here we are going to study in a specific time duration. So here we are considering in a year. Now coming to L, that is the labor input, the total number of persons per hour worked in a year, and K is the capital input. So what is the equipment, building, machinery, what all the monetary words of all these we consider it to be capital. And next one is productivity, like it is also called as efficiency coefficient. And the next one is the output elasticity of labor, that is alpha. So these are the constant values, that is B is a constant value which we can see. So this is how a production function given by Cobb Douglas. So it is mathematically or statistically proved, which is very effective production function and accepted like widely by many of the organizations. Now let's see what is the importance of this Cobb Douglas production function. So here, because it is widely in empirical studies of manufacturing industries, so we can also compare in inter industry comparisons. And next one is, it is used to determine the relative shares of labor and capital for the total output. And A and B represents the elasticity quotients for the intersectoral comparisons. And economists will extend this production function to more than like different production activities. And here also we discussed about the degree of function, as it is a linear homogeneous of degree of function. So it is the constant returns. We also have constant returns to scale, increasing returns to scale, and decreasing returns to scale. So coming to this, what is returns to scale? Let's discuss about returns to scale in the next coming slides. So coming to this returns to scale, like constant returns, when we have constant returns to scale in Cobb Douglas production function, when alpha plus beta is equal to 1. And here, if alpha plus beta is less than 1, then we can say increasing returns to scale. And alpha plus beta is greater than 1, then there is diminishing returns to scale. So now coming to loss of returns. What are these loss of returns? Now you'll understand what is this alpha plus beta is equal to 1, minus 1, and less than 1. Okay. So loss of returns. So coming to this loss of returns, we have 3 loss of returns. When we study this loss of returns, when we are going with production with large scale of production, we have this law of returns. So we basically have 3 types of law of returns to scale, that is like increasing, decreasing, and constant returns to scale. So this law of returns will describe the relationship between the variable inputs and the output with all the inputs or factors are increased in the same proportion. So here we are considering multiple input factors to know the output, okay, output of the production. So here when we are giving the number of inputs, like what is the output which we can see. So the law of returns to scale also analyzes what is the level of output, and it can be observed when there is like a proportionate change in the amount of like inputs, how the behavior of output is going to vary. So this also we can see in law of returns. So this is how it looks like, the curves of law of returns to scale. So here we are taking multiple input factors and we are taking the marginal products. So this is how the output increases. So this is increasing and the output becomes constant here and again start declining. So this we call it as diminishing returns. Okay. So when we give multiple input factors, how the productivity is like varying based on the multiple inputs to the production activity. So that is what is law of returns to scale. So here it is increasing at an increasing rate, and it becomes constant at certain level and again started declining. That is diminishing returns to scale. So we have three stages in law of returns, that is increasing returns to scale, decreasing diminishing returns to scale, and constant returns to scale. So now let's know what is this increasing returns to scale. So if the output of the firm increases more than in the proportionate to the equal percentage increase in inputs, the production is said to exhibit increasing returns to scale. For example, if I give like 10 units of inputs, I give 10 units of inputs, I am going to get 10 units of output. So I have increased my inputs to 20 units of inputs. So when I increase my inputs, when I increase my inputs, that is to 20, my output, that is increasing to 30 units of output. Okay, 30 units of output. So what is the change in inputs and what is the change in output? Here there is 100% increase in input, and here 200% increase in output. With 100% increase in input, we are getting 200% of increase in output. So then we call it as increasing returns to scale. Then we call it as increasing returns to scale. Okay. So if the amount of inputs are double to the output, increased by more than double, then we call it as increasing returns to scale. Okay. Now coming to diminishing returns to scale. So diminishing returns to scale means the term diminishing diminishing itself says decreasing. Okay. So we are giving more of input, but we are getting less of output. So with the same example, like when we have 10 units of inputs, when we give 10 units of inputs, we get 10 units of output. So here we started increasing the inputs, that is we give 20 units of input, but we get like 15 units of output. So what is the change in input factor? So there is 100% change in input factor, but we are getting only 50% of output. So here the input is 100%, but we are going to get only 50% of output as increasing, but at a decreasing rate. So this output is increasing at a decreasing rate. That we call it as diminishing returns to scale. Now coming to constant returns to scale. So constant returns to scale means when we have when we are giving 10 inputs, we get 10 outputs, and we increased our input to 20 units of inputs, and we get 20 units of output. So here 100% increase in input is there, 100% increase in output is also there. So both are equal here. Both are equal here. Then we say it is constant returns to scale. It is constant returns to scale. Okay. So this is constant returns to scale. This is law of returns to scale. Now let's discuss about economies of scale. So what is this economies of scale? So when a firm wants to enjoy the advantage of expansion of the organization, it wants to know, needs to know how the expansion benefiting the organization as well as industry. So there are two types of economies of scale. So that is internal economies of scale and the external economies of scale. So here internal economies of scale will highlight the advantages of the uh, organization of the firm, which obtains due to the increase in the internal techniques of the firm. And coming to external economies of scale, so what are the advantages which is going to get through outside from outside sources is external economies of scale. Now let's discuss like these economies of scale are benefiting and advantages for the firm as it expands its production. Like economies of scale reduce the average cost, right? So why this economies of scale is required? To reduce the average cost. So what is the internal economies here? First internal economy is like this internal economies is going to happen within the organization. So what is the labor economies? So what is the labor economy? If we are employing some labor, so 10 laborers we are employing. So what is the amount of money which we are spending? So that here labor economies means we like instead of hiring more amount of labor, what we can do is we can give the inputs of raw materials more, so that the labor hours can be increased, but we are not going to employ few additional workers. So likewise we are going to get the economies from labor economies. And next one is managerial economies. Here for example, like initially when the firm has established, when we take a small like a provision shop, so he is a sole proprietor. He himself engages all the activities, right? So he gets the provisions, and he sell on retail. He need to manage all the things, and he need to store the things. He is going to do all the activities. He has to maintain the accounts. He acts as a manager, everything. But when he want to like make that provision shop as a supermarket, then he need a separate cashier, he need workers, he need some low level blue collared employees and all, right? So when here due to this specialization, they are expertised in their works, right? So as they are expertised in their own specializations, we like a company or a firm is going to enjoy the managerial economies. Next, marketing economies. Coming to next, marketing economies. So here instead of publicizing about a single product, we can publicize about many different products what are all going to like what are the new products which have come into existence through this economies of scale. So the advertisement cost can be minimized. So bearing economies, risk bearing economies, by taking insurance, we can get the like risk bearing economies. And transport and shortage of economies, like we also get like through this, instead of carrying only one good, we can get many goods at a time, so that here also the transportation and storage anyhow we need to maintain, even though the firm is small or big. So this also becomes an like economies of scale. Now coming to external economies, which is enjoyed through the external phases of the industries. So coming to this, economies of government action. So government sometimes give some kind of subsidies, right? So through these subsidies also, like a company can get the economies. And economies of concentration. So economies of concentration is where if a firm is located at a particular place, so with that what we can expect is like the surroundings of that region is going to be improvised, the cost of living is improvised, and the infrastructure over that particular company may be increased. For example, like we take Hyderabad, like the software industry, the whole software industry is there at Madhapur and Kondapur, right? So, like if we just go back to 15 years, there was no good infrastructure or roads or any facilities at that particular location, because software industry has come over there. The infrastructure has increased like anything, and due to the concentration of software industry at that particular location, the infrastructure has improved, as well as it also creates economies of concentration for the industries. And next one is economies of information. So all the information like they only individual firms are giving is not only firms are not just giving the publicity of their products. So as a whole, an industry can also publicize about the companies or firms. And finally, economies of marketing. So even the industries also start marketing about the firms, like individual firms, and it also results in economies of scale. And we also have sometimes this economies of scale, where though we are going with the expansion of our firm, it may result in like a lower productivity. That is what is diseconomies of scale. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.